We're talking about Fancy Birds. Now, quick disclaimer, not financial advice. I'm also going to add timestamps down below so you can navigate as you need to. So Fancy Birds is a blockchain game, play to earn NFT game that's aiming to bring casual gaming to the masses. And we have a lot of these games that go big and wide and super complex. Are they going to leave people out who are already confused by crypto? Are they going to also be confused by those super complex games? And I think that's the difference maker when it comes to Fancy Birds. So they got it right here. Our platform will provide users the ability to access multiple play-to-earn games, emulating nostalgic experiences of past casual gaming platforms, such as Miniclip and addicting games, all backed by the FNC token. Why are we caring about Fancy Birds? Well, if you guys were around in 2014, you're probably familiar with Flappy Bird. Okay, Flappy Bird had 50 million downloads by January 2014. It was the #1 free game in 53 countries. The nostalgia feel from playing that for a lot of folks, I think, is super real. One of the top downloaded apps on Android and iOS. So what if you take that model? Okay, what if you take that Flappy Bird nostalgic model and put it into blockchain? So now you actually own your Flappy Bird or your Fancy Bird. Now you're able to breed it, have other little baby Fancy Birds. And you can play this game and actually earn crypto that you could sell in the real world. Now we touched on this before on this channel, but in essence, there's a monumental tectonic shift happening in blockchain gaming right now, where instead of the prior process where a game developer creates a game, they sell it to a player goes back and forth buying items, and it kind of lives in that ecosystem where you don't own it, you can't sell it, and all the time you put into developing your character and your items are really worthless. To the current environment in blockchain gaming where you are part owner of the ecosystem right along those game developers, and those characters that you develop and you spend tons of time on, those items that you go ahead and level up, you can actually go ahead, turn around and sell them on the marketplaces for these things. Super exciting time to be in blockchain gaming. So what problem, okay, is Fancy Birds trying to solve? And look, not everything has to be super complex, all right? We're just over here trying to have some fun. We're just trying to kill, the 15 minutes while we're on the bus going to our job, or maybe when we're on the crapper, let's be honest, okay? So I think Fancy Birds is just trying to get that quick, casual crypto game off the ground and be one of the first ones to do it and do it at a really high level. So let's talk about some founders. So it's founded by Mr. Fancy, who I've actually chatted with a little bit on Discord, super cool guy, Fancy Janitor, and Mad Badger. And they kind of came together to chase down this dream of going after a Flappy Bird version in crypto. And through happenstance, word of the day, they had a tweet from Illuvium, probably pronounced that wrong, and Kieran Warwick, who's one of the co-founders. It's another major blockchain game. And he made the comment, hey, how come nobody's made a play to earn Flappy Bird? Where you guys at? Let's get it. And sure enough, Fancy Birds replied, it's like, dude, we're right here, okay? We're trying to do that. And so they were able to actually go ahead and kick off a relationship, and Illuvium has helped support get Fancy Birds off the ground, help network them kind of in the blockchain space, and the rest is history. Now, outside of Illuvium, there was a couple other backers that you may or may not know of. We had some backers from Synthetics, some additional backers from XPerify, some from Sushi, some from 1inch, some from Anchor, some from Aave. Okay, legitimate OGs, people who have crypto experience. Now, I also went ahead and I jumped on this AMA that was hosted by one of the founders back in January, when I wish I was jumping on Fancy Birds, and they just seem like really cool guys. They seem like game developers that are doing their best to make a really, really fun, casual gaming experience, being able to turn that into a play to earn environment where people are making money off of the time they put in the game, and ultimately using it as a jump off point to launch more games and different games. And we pull up their social media. I like to take a look at this because community is huge. You got a good community behind some of these up and coming projects. They spread like viruses, and the viral nature of these. They got 50,000 on Twitter, growing a lot since they have their game about to launch and their Genesis mint here pretty soon. We also have a Medium page they're updating very regularly. We hop over to YouTube and it's a little quiet. There isn't a lot when it comes to the YouTube space, but hopefully that helps me out with my channel. Now, I just found this website, but I thought this was worth a shout out. Also, playtoearn.net, and somehow they're pulling social sentiment scores off of Fancy Birds. And as you see these spikes right here, these are kind of jumps in their social score comparative to their average score, which is that line at the bottom. Typically we use Lunar Crush to look this thing up, and it's like too early. Lunar Crush didn't have it. Now we like to play the game of what if. Okay, what if rose-colored glasses, best case scenario. Fancy token went ahead and hit the market cap of Axie Infinity. You're looking at 145x. Now, when we talk about potential growth levers, so the game is launching on February 16th. Tomorrow for the whitelist, they're actually going to go ahead and have their Genesis mint of the NFTs. And I believe on the 14th is when they're going to have a public sale for any remaining Fancy Birds to be bought. They also do have a unique mechanism that we're going to get into deeper as we go into the tokenomics, but in essence, when you take your FNC tokens and you come up here and you stake them, they burn those FNC tokens and they give you a derivative of it. There is some downward pressure on the floating supply of FNC. Now we talked about the VC backers. So all those individuals that we kind of talked about earlier, Aave, Barnbridge, Parify, Sushi, and some pretty big names. In addition to that, we go to look at some of their official partners. We also see Illivium, Yield Guild Games, both of which are projects that are, if not already, will likely be in my GameFi portfolio. So I say we zoom out, we're early stage. That's where we're at with this sucker. We're early stage. Now we go and look at the tokenomics. So there's two tokens. Okay, you have the Fancy token, Fancy Games, FNC. We zoom out all time. This thing launched back in December. What was that, around 28 cents? And just today, it's kind of had a little bit of a run up. It's around 88 cents. Now they also go ahead and they have a synthetic FNC, and that's the token that you're given when you stake FNC on the Fancy Bird website. And then again, those Fancy tokens are burnt once you stake them. Now for the actual utility of what you use these darn things for and what type of pressure could we see on circulating supply, they're used for breeding, earning, staking, customization of your NFT assets, accessing tournaments and game modes. And there's even been some floating of words out there about potential land sales and how these could go ahead and these can play into future games that this group goes ahead and launches. Now we look at the IDO price. So they had an IDO where that initial price was around 5 cents. So folks who got in there are looking pretty happy right now. They're looking pretty happy. Now we look at the circulating supply. So right now we have, 40 million that's out there circulating today, with a total max supply of 1 billion tokens. That's definitely something to keep in mind. What's up, Jastir? Welcome to the stream, brother. Ramiro Baker. So we also go ahead, we look at the private sales. This is all public knowledge. They go ahead and break down their token supplies, as you can kind of see here. Pre-seed, seed, public sale, marketing. One thing that's worth calling out is that treasury and those in-game rewards. Typically, those are used in the early stages of these games launching to go ahead and reward your early players to get a ton of these tokens, in essence, farm them up before the game goes mainstream. So if you're planning to get into Fancy Birds and actually play the darn thing, probably want to do it soon. Now, we do also have to look at the unlock schedule. So they have 100% that's unlocked after 3 months on from, January, February, March 2022. So there is some downward pressure on the price that you can expect between now and then. But this is a long-term play, then I think you're fine overall. I think it's also interesting to go ahead and look at the addresses. So we see December, they had a little bit of a run up. January was going pretty flat. In February, it's had about 100, what do we want to call it? 100 and, we'll call it even 100. About 100 new addresses come in to this thing in the last month. Now, Fancy Birds is a DAO. So it is kind of an open governance where if you're a token holder, you have the ability to go ahead and steer the direction of this thing, which I love to see. Salam. What's up, Musab? Where can you buy this thing? You can only buy it on Sushi Swap in BKX. Now, I don't know if there's a strategy behind listing on some of these lower tier exchanges. Like you're definitely networked enough to get listed on a major exchange. But I wonder if that's to, the token from being absolutely decimated from early backers selling right off the bat. But that's where you can get it. And we talk about latest news. They did need a layer 2 scaling solution because this thing is built on Ethereum. So they went ahead and partnered up with Polygon. Now we talked about that mint of these Fancy Birds. So the public mint is going to be on the 14th, and any remaining Fancy Birds that haven't been minted yet, those Genesis Fancy Birds that haven't been minted yet, you're going to have the ability to go ahead and buy them. And if I recall correctly, I think the price on that is 0.06 ETH. What's that? 100, 200, 300 bucks, something like that. In addition to that, from news, they also go ahead and open up that staking, which we talked about. They have an ambassador program. So this project is getting off the ground. They need some help kind of managing the Discord, creating content, and that type of thing. So if you want to get close to the team, maybe learn a little bit, play the game, while also getting some cool skins for your Fancy Bird, definitely want to take a look at joining their Discord and supporting the community. Now, of course, with all crypto projects, they had to have an audit, and their code audit was done by hacking. Now, roadmap, that's tomorrow, is the Genesis mint of the Fancy Birds. The 14th is the public sale of any remaining Fancy Birds that weren't claimed. The game is launching on the 16th of February. They got a lot. And again, as we mentioned in their AMA, this is the first of many addictive games. And I think they're gonna go ahead and intentionally kind of say thank you and support some of these Genesis backers of their project as they go ahead and launch some of those other games. I think, recap. So if we look at this from a bullish standpoint, okay, what's the bullish scenario? The game's simple and it's very addictive and it takes off. In a year of play to earn hype, where all these games are popping up, Fancy earns a spot in the limelight because it's super easy to use and really addictive. They're backed by some major partners in the space like Yield Games and Illuvium, and their executive team goes ahead and executes on launching a great game that's addictive that people love. They go ahead and they pump out Fancy games. It goes great. And they use it as a launch pad to go ahead and launch more games and more games and more games. If we go ahead and we look at the, this is the Polygon blockchain that we have sorted by here on DApp Radar. So one of the top performers right here is Pegasus. So if they went ahead and they had a successful run, you know, looking at what, 500,000 or more users in the first year seems very doable. Now let's flip it. Take off those rose-colored glasses. Bearish, okay? Worst case scenario. So the simplicity of the game is initially addictive when it's released, but it dies out. People get too used to it. Burnout. Those initial coin holders, those ICO participants, go ahead and they have a continual sell pressure on the price, really preventing it from taking off. You also have the token unlocks, where there's a ton of tokens that are not in circulation. Maybe that also provides a downward pressure on the price for a long period of time. So if the game's dying out, maybe that secondary market where you go ahead and you sell your NFTs, sell some of the perks you earn in the game also stagnates. Now you're just kind of stuck with an NFT of a bird. And then if that funding dries up, the partners are no longer passionate, it becomes a zombie protocol. Wrapping it all up, I feel great about Fancy Games. I think more than likely that bullish scenario is going to happen. I am somewhat of an optimist, so take that in stride. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Long term, you believe in it? Think it's going to take off? Or do you think it's just going to dry up? Let me know in the comments section what video or what game I'm going to be reviewing next, and we'll get that video out. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.